to their screams.
Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Dave, and I'm joined as always by Ike. Ike, Happy New Year. How the hell are you?
I am doing very fantastic. Happy New Year to you as well, and Happy New Year to all of the beautiful people that are listening to our podcast.
That's right. That's right. We're as we're recording, we are 4 days into the year. So far, so good. No, nothing major. No wheels falling off on this bus just yet. But hey, it's early. It's early. That's okay. That's okay. Sometimes I feel that life is just one series of crisis management after another, but that's okay. That's the way it is. You know what Rocky Balboa says? It's life's not about how many times you get hit. It's about how many times you get up after you get hit.
Amen to that.
But anyway, yeah, this is our 2022 year in review episode. And what that means for us here at Listen to Their Screams is we are going to count down our top 5 favorite horror movies that were released in 2022. Now, we also have 3 honorable mentions that we will discuss. So basically a total of 8 movies that we're going to discuss today. And that's pretty much the gist of the entire episode. We're not going to do a bunch of news and upcoming releases and et cetera today. We are going to focus on talking about our favorite movies, horror movies of 2022. Now, as we always say, the key word is favorite. Now, we know, we're going to discuss box office a little bit and this and that. And there might be some overlap. There could be. But, hey, we're not saying that these are the most critically successful or the most financially successful or anything else. These were just the ones that we enjoyed. And I think we both came up with some lists with some ideas, and remarkably, they weren't too far off of each other. I mean, there was a few subtle differences, but I was really kind of worried that when we did the cumulative list, we'd have to, really banter back and forth and do like debate club, and everything. But it was pretty quick and seamless. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Our tastes line up pretty well on these things. So
yeah, I was gonna say it definitely wasn't as because like you said, I've done stuff like this before. I used to do a different podcast on the Geek Stew channel, and we've done top 5s and stuff. And the guy I did that with, he and I butted heads a lot. So it was very interesting having a very different experience here, where we basically were just like, yep, let's do it.
Yeah, it was pretty. Like I said last episode, there was an assumed number one. No surprise. Yeah. We knew what that was. That was just going to be there. Then when we come with the other list, between our top 5s and our 3 honorable mentions that we each did, there wasn't a lot that weren't overlapped, that weren't represented somewhere in those 8 movies we each picked. So it was pretty easy to kind of shuffle it around. So, and again, like I said, this is our favorite list. And man, it's tough though, because there were a lot of great movies in 2022, and not even just horror movies. When I was looking up, box office numbers and looking at lists of stuff, there's just a lot of really fun movies that came out this year that I really enjoyed, that I even forgot about. But we're not discussing those. They're not horror related. They don't apply. So anyway, before we get into it, let's get the nuts and bolts out of the way. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope you are having a good New Year and everybody had a good holiday break. Wherever you're listening to us, make sure you subscribe, and if possible, rate and review us. Share the episodes. Tell your friends. Tell your coworkers. Tell your family. Tell the stranger down the street. Tell the guy in front of you in the line at the pharmacy. Just tell everybody about these 2 dudes that are talking horror. Hey, we're quite the dudes here. We are something else. Before we came on air, before we started hitting record today, we were talking kind of about some of the voice work we do here on the podcast for the clips and different things. And I do some of that. And I told Ike that I sound a lot like Freddy Krueger. And Ike, you said, yeah, you can kind of hear that a little bit. And I said, well, the Nightmare guys need to get on board with me, doing some voiceover work. Or, if they want to put me on screen, and as I said, if they want a rotund dad bod Freddy Krueger, I'm your man. So when you tell people to listen to us, feel free to use those kind of descriptors. They're going to, surely a few of them will be hooked, out of curiosity. But wherever you are out there in the social media world, we are probably there as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Just look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2, and Screams, and follow us there. We try to keep some lively conversation and share some cool stuff. So help us there. If you engage and discuss, it just makes it all the better for everyone. As we say every week, thank you to our wives, Kayla and Monica. I feel like if we say it enough, it's going to lose its meaning. Eventually, they're going to be like, God, just quit. But they do help and support us a lot, and in this and everything else in life. So we feel the need to thank them. So like we said, we're 4 days into the new year. Have you gotten to watch anything so far this year? Anything jumping at you?
So I haven't watched it yet, but I did just want to throw it out there. It came out last year, and I never got a chance to watch it. But the movie The Menu, it's actually on HBO Max now, so I need to watch that. I've not watched it yet, but I'm dying to watch it.
I did. I saw that was there too. That's what I thought too. I thought, oh, that's kind of out there. It's one of those movies I really kind of wanted to go see, and it just I don't know, got away from me, slipped away, and then I kind of forgot about it. Now I did, but I saw it streaming as well. So yeah, that's I'm sure that'll be a soon watch for me. But so what? Sorry, didn't interrupt. What else? What did you watch?
No, you're good. I really didn't watch a whole lot else, and I guess it could be considered slightly horror. But I recently rewatched, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh yeah.
Super great. Obviously, it's made by Sam Raimi, who is a master of horror. So obviously, it has some horror aspects. I think the Scarlet Witch is such a great character. And it can definitely be spooky. I still I'm so sad that they killed all the people that they killed in those other universes, but Sam Raimi made you really feel the turmoil in that movie. I almost put that in my top 5, but I was like, it is not horror enough for me to put it in my top 5. But You know how it is.
It's funny how people that classify things as horror, because I feel like there's a lot of movies you can make the argument for, and right, we've done it here with a few movies as we discussed. But as I was looking up lists of horror movies that were released in 2022 to make sure I didn't miss any titles, one that I kept seeing popping up on a lot of these lists was Jurassic World Dominion, and I'm like, oh, I guess I can see that, right, as a horror type movie, but it didn't even. It's kind of a creature movie, but never even dawned on me. To think about that. But again, that's one of those fun movies that I enjoyed, but it didn't make my list because again, I don't think it's horror centric enough. But
and obviously I don't want to dwell on too much, but it kind of honestly, I think it kind of enters into that paradigm that we kind of talked about before, how the Wizard of Oz at one point in time was considered a horror movie. You know what I mean? Yep. Back in the 90s or whenever the first Jurassic Park movie came out, obviously that was kind of scary. It was literally about bringing dinosaurs back to life and them eating you. So I would almost put the original Jurassic Parks in that realm. But the newer ones, in my opinion, they kind of stop being horror and they just kind of start being adventure, in my opinion. But that's not to say that they're bad. They're very good, obviously.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Jurassic movies. To a varying degree, I like them all. The first one I absolutely love. I was so caught up in Jurassic Park fever when it first came out. I literally could not tell you how many times I saw that in the theater because I worked retail at that time, and right next door to the store I worked at was a theater, and I would literally work and then get off work and walk over there and see that movie. And I did that every day for I bet 3 weeks. No lie. I could not even tell you how many times I saw that movie in theater because I loved it. Still do. Still love it. I think it is a absolute masterpiece. Such a good movie. So you're not really in the horror swing yet. But we got some things, like I said, The Menu and some things. Let's see. I have gotten back to my watch of American Horror Story, trying to get into that. I'm still just in season 2. But I have kind of dived back into that and watched some of that. That's really about anything horror related I watched. I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who lately. I kind of started back with Christopher Eccleston, the Ninth Doctor, watching the reboot, and kind of watching my way through. And I've actually even went back and watched some classic Tom Baker. It's my favorite Doctor. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been watching. But hopefully I can get through this American Horror Story at some time. I feel like I just I don't know. I feel like I nick away at it. It's very heavy. It's one of those things you watch it for a bit and you're like, oh, I got to take a breath and watch something else here. And you come up for some air because, man, There's some parts it gets very intense. And
oh yeah.
So, but again, there are a couple movies like you said that are out there to watch. Like I said, I want to watch The Menu, so I'll hopefully watch that here in the next week. That's what I'm really hoping. So, but I did watch, and I think you did too, a couple trailers that were just released today as of recording.
Yes.
Let's start. Let's start with Mutilator 2. They released a trailer for Mutilator 2. Ike, have you ever seen the first Mutilator?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the one where like the kid's mom, he accidentally kills her, and then like
Yes.
the guy with like the meat hook comes back and starts messing with him or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
They go to where he's kind of estranged from the dad because the dad blamed him obviously, and but then the dad needs help anyway. It's just a fun movie. It's a fun slasher movie. It came out in '84. It is a 1984 slasher movie. That's what it is. I mean, that's all you can expect out of it. But it's fun, and it's been all these years, and now they're making a second, and I'm pretty excited. And I watched the trailer, and it's pretty meta. It's kind of meta, and I like it. And I think it looks like it's going to be fun too. It looks, like low budget. It's obviously not a big production company or a big studio behind it or anything. That's okay, because the first Mutilator didn't have that either, and that's kind of a little bit of the charm of it. And I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, the trailer looked fun. I can't wait to see it. I've not heard anything about a release date or a release method yet. I'm sure they're probably still sorting through those details and working it out. So hopefully that'll come soon. What did you think of the trailer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me the big thing, which it cracks me up, it very much reminds me of a low budget like New Nightmare concept.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because for people who don't know, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the whole concept is that basically Nightmare on Elm Street is just a movie, right? But the concept of Freddy Krueger permeated into real life because of like basically like the spirit of him or something like that. You know what I mean? So, and it obviously it's not that I don't think it's going to be the exact same thing, but it very much kind of I feel like takes a lot of liberty from that, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it looks great. You said it looks a little low budget, but honestly, low budget movies tend to be great movies in my opinion because they have to work harder. Even if they don't have the best actors or they don't have the best effects or whatever the case is, they're going to try and find a way to compensate for that. And typically, movies like this do. So I'm excited for it on that respect.
Yeah, and not spoiling here, I'm not going to say, but to be fair, the number one movie that we had ranked in our top 5 could be considered a low budget movie.
Oh, 100%.
In the grand scheme of things. So there's that. And then obviously the other trailer that everybody's talking about online, that everybody's been anticipating. They released a little teaser yesterday, and then they released the full trailer today on January 4th, is the trailer for Evil Dead Rise. That comes out in theaters on April 21st. And I was excited for this anyway, and cannot wait. I love the Evil Dead movies, but man, once I saw this trailer, I mean, it was a Red Band trailer, and just from the trailer, there were parts that kind of got me flinching a little. There were a couple of parts. So, Ike, what'd you think of the trailer?
Oh man, obviously I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, 100%. I am very familiar with Sam Raimi's what can I say, his tricks, if you will. He has a very specific style, and 100%. I think that watching this trailer, you really feel like the old Sam Raimi. You see all the crazy shit that he puts into these movies. And I think that's honestly was my first thing, is I saw this stuff, and obviously not seen the trailer. I'm just going to name a couple of things. You see somebody start getting fucking mauled with a cheese grater.
That's it. That's exactly the thought, what I was thinking of with the cringe. And they didn't really show a whole lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing what was happening, I'm like, oh, because there ain't nobody in the world that's ever used a cheese grater that hasn't thought, if I go a little too close and get the ends of my fingers, it's just I'm gonna pass out and it's gonna be off.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's exactly what I was thinking too. I was thinking to myself, man, you know what would suck? And they basically took it right out of my head. And yeah, no, I definitely was thinking to myself that would suck so hard to get graded. There was other stuff too, like the tattoo needle in the eye.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It was just, yeah, no, I was definitely watching that, and every single time something new popped up, I was like, Jesus Christ. So as soon as the movie comes out, it's going to be, oh man, I'm excited. It's going to be pretty lit,
Yeah,
as the kids would say.
yeah, and this is just a trailer. So
Yeah.
what's going to be? Oh, I can't wait. And I know, some people say, oh, but what about, Ash is not in it, Bruce Campbell's not in it. You know what? That's okay. Campbell realized, he realized that at some point you can't do the character anymore, right? You have to try something fresh. He's an executive producer on this,
Yeah.
so he's still involved. I mean, his finger's still in that pie, and he's plugging the hell out of it. And it's, man, I don't know. It looks fun to me. It looks like it's still true to the lore, to the background of the story, and and it's they've got to do something with it, right? This is where to go. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to see it. Again, it comes out April 21st in theaters. I know originally it was supposed to be, I think, straight to HBO Max, but I think now it's going theatrical. So that's a good sign.
Yeah,
So,
I had heard that it was going to be originally like an HBO Max special or something like that, but no, yeah, that's what I had heard, is that it's going to now be straight up theatrical release, which I'm pumped for. I'll be pretty excited.
yeah, me too. And it's always good because that means people are they're getting behind it. That's right. They're getting theaters on board, and that's a good thing because it'll get hopefully it'll have a good run theatrical, and then it'll have a good run streaming wise. So I cannot wait. We got April, but we got lots of stuff coming up before that too.
Oh God,
so
yeah, there's so much stuff coming out.
Yeah, this first quarter is pretty good. So we can't put the cart before the horse there. Of course, we got the Scream movie. I think right in March it's coming out, and there's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of things. Just cannot wait. This is going to be this first quarter is going to be fun. And some good movies. I mean, we talked about it. We're going to talk about it more today. How good 2022 was for horror. Man, 2023 is just kicking it right off. It could be another great year. So
100%. I'm super excited.
Yeah, let's take a break then, and when we come back, we're going to jump into discussing 2022 a little bit, and we'll talk about our honorable mentions for our favorite horror movies of 2022.
Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned.
All right. Before we dive into our choices and our favorites, let's talk box office a little bit, Ike, because this was a monumental year in my eyes for horror at the box office, right? And here let's talk the top 5 grossing horror movies of 2022, right? Number 1 was Smile, which grossed $216 million worldwide. Now, overall, if you take it not just horror movies, but overall box office, it was 20. It was 20 overall. So that was the top horror movies was number 20. The second highest was Nope at 171 million worldwide, and it ranked in at 25th overall. The Black Phone, 161 million worldwide. It ranked 28. Scream, 140 million worldwide, and it ranked 31st. And then Halloween Ends, 105 million worldwide, and it ranked 33. So we can say what we want. I mean, we can say what it want, but it produced. It put it up there. And, again, I know we tease, right? But I don't hate Halloween Ends. So anybody that thinks that, because I know I give it a hard time, I don't hate it. I think it came a little short with my expectations. That maybe that's me. Maybe that's on me. I still enjoyed the movie overall. It just took me, I don't know. When I first watched it, I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm not saying it's a bad movie. So anyway. Right. But that was the top 5 grossing horror movies of all time. Now, there was 5 horror movies in the top 33 grossing movies of 2022. That is 15%.
Oh yeah.
15% of the top 33 grossing movies in 2022 were horror movies. That is unreal to me. And I know that, I mean, for a genre, a niche genre, essentially, which is, it's not even becoming, it's expanding beyond that now. And that's unreal. That you're the top 33 movies, 15% of them were horror movies. And this isn't a big year when you had, like we said, there was a Jurassic World movie, there was a Top Gun movie, there was, I don't even know what else off the top of my head. I mean, it was a big year box office. I mean, theaters were really roaring back after the pandemic. Yeah. And horror did right with it. And that's not even talking about some of the, going on down the list, all the others that were produced, and that's not even taking into account streaming services. And how well the content was on that. So Ike, it was, man, before we dive into specifics, 2022 was just a huge year for horror movies.
Yeah, I would say horror movies. It was just, I mean, like you said, before we dive into specifics, I mean, if you loved horror movies, 2022, I think has been one of the best years for horror movies since I don't even know when. I mean, in my adult life, this has probably been the best year of horror movies that I can even fathom.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I mean. I know things go in phases, right? And there was times through the 80s and 90s where there was a lot of horror out there, right? And there was a lot of horror performing, right? They put out Nightmares and Friday the 13th that were always huge earners. And
Right.
and then then it was I mean, I'm not saying content wise or whatever, but there was just, it seemed like there was a lull for production, right? You'd obviously have movies that would slip in there and really perform, but they weren't just dominating the charts as much. It didn't feel like there for a while, but I feel like we're right back. And then I feel like and again with the new Scream movie coming this year, with the new Evil Dead movie coming this year, and everything else that's coming in this year. I mean, there's a huge list of movies coming this year. I don't see this changing. I have a feeling that in 2023 the numbers might even be even better.
No, absolutely. I think with the two movies that you just mentioned alone, Scream and Evil Dead Rise, Evil Dead has an insane cult following. Scream has an insane, I can't really say cult following. It's an incredibly mainstream movie now. And both of them have their respective followings and audiences, but also they leach out into other genres so much. And I think that we're going to see another, like you said, another great year. And I mean, I can't even tell you off the top of my head other movies. Well, there are the movies coming out this year, like Megan, for instance, which is coming out this coming weekend. That is going to be insane as well. I mean, there's just so many great things. There's an M. Night Shyamalan movie coming out with Dave Bautista.
Yeah, Knock at the Cabin. What is it? Knock on the Cabin Door or something like that?
Or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. Yeah, it's coming out pretty soon too. And yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of shit. I mean, there's a huge list. Maybe I should have had it in front of us to look ahead, but I mean, that's just, and still these movies we're just talking in the first few months here.
Yeah.
That all these that we're name dropping, they're all coming out here in the first few months of the year. So it's amazing. It is remarkable. And that's not even talking about things that will come out, series wise, right? I mean, they're talking about, I don't know whether it'll be out this year or not, but we're talking about the Crystal Lake, the Friday the 13th whatever I'm trying to say here, series that's coming out, and prequel series, and things like that. Now, again, I don't know if those are coming out this year or not, but I mean, we're not even, there could be series that come out and things like that. And this is,
I was going to say another big one is The Last of Us TV series that's coming out on HBO January 19th. Last of Us is probably one of the most critically acclaimed video games of all time. So, and it has it has a lot of really cool people in the show itself. But it has Pedro Pascal, which I love Pedro Pascal so freaking much. And he's in it, so I'm so excited.
Yeah, and again, here we are talking about this. We're not even talking. We haven't even said anything about streaming services,
Exactly.
right? Your Shutters, your Screen Boxes, your Bloody Disgusting. We haven't even gotten to those. We looked at those yet, and what they will put out this year. I mean, there was great movies on those services in 2022. So what are they going to do in 2023? I mean, that's not even. We're just literally name dropping the big box office releases coming up in the first few months. That's not even looking at the rest of the year and the rest of the services. It is remarkable.
It really is.
I mean, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. And and let's dive into it, right? Because again, we're looking forward a lot here in 2023, and we're supposed to be looking backwards in 2022. So let's turn around and let's discuss our honorable mentions. We have 3 of them here. These did not make our top 5, but they were strong contenders that we very much enjoyed. Again, these are our favorite movies of 2022, horror movies of 2022. Not, we're not going off the box office numbers. We do have that information,
right?
But that's not what we did for our ranking. So the first honorable mention that we had that we both really enjoyed was VHS 99. It didn't obviously have a theatrical release. There's no box office numbers. It went straight to streaming. It's available on Shudder or AMC Plus as part of that package. And it's funny to me because when we started doing this podcast,
Yeah.
I talked a lot about how found footage is just not my thing, and it's so hit or miss with me, right? Because I feel like what I enjoy, I do enjoy a lot, but there's some of it that's just, it all feels the same to me. And then here this year was so strong that there were a couple of found footage films that I just lost my mind for, and VHS 99 was one of them. I loved all the VHS movies, and again, I believe I said this in our episode. Each one to me just builds and gets a little progressively better, and I really enjoyed now that they're doing a time capsule type deal or whatever you want to call it. They had the 94 and 99, and then I think the 85 comes out this year. I'm super excited, but 99 was so much fun, and it's such a great movie to watch.
No, absolutely. VHS 99. I love the VHS movies. I have been a fan for a very long time. I'm pretty sure I kind of recommended them to you, and obviously with the new ones coming out, they became very pertinent to our reviews and whatnot. But honestly, it's one of those things where I watched those movies years ago, and each time another one came out, it was just like you said, it was compoundingly better. VHS 1 was good, VHS 2 was great, VHS 3 was fantastic, and then they started doing the stuff on Shudder, and it just got better and better. And I 100% agree that when they start narrowing in on like the time specific eras, I definitely feel like that's going to give them a huge advantage, because I feel like a lot of the early ones were a little scatterbrained. But I feel like with these newer ones, you kind of hone in on a specific era. You can kind of hone in on some niche items from that era. So I think 85 is going to be fantastic. Get that old school like Betamax, feel to it. But no, VHS 99 was 100% an honorable mention for me.
Yeah, I'm super stoked because 1985, I was 10 years old. So we're talking prime Dave here. I can't wait to see that one. So I go ahead, throw out our second honorable mention for 2022.
Absolutely. None other than Black Phone, which was a box office, some pretty big hit, I'd say. Number 3 of the horror movies in the top, whatever. So $160 million worldwide included. It is on Prime Video, available for purchase on all digital platforms. So if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Oh my God. We both have seen Black Phone, right? You've seen Black Phone,
Yep.
Dave?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I thought you had. We both, if I remember correctly, we both loved Black Phone. Ethan Hawke is just, chef's kiss. He's such a great villain. He's such a great bad guy, and he plays this character so well. And so well, in fact, if I remember correctly, they've already greenlit a prequel to Black Phone, which is going to cover the history and some of the story regarding Ethan Hawke's character and some of the prelude to that. So 100%, Black Phone is a fantastic movie, super scary, great ambiance to it. Honestly, it had one of the most satisfying endings of any horror movie in 2022. Just such a wonderful movie, and I would recommend anybody watches it. It's not pure horror, as there is elements of suspense, thriller, mystery, drama, but it does it really scratches that, horror movie itch that you have, if you will.
Yeah, it does. Again, when this came out, there was a lot of praise for it, right? And I think you saw it before I did, and you were praising it, and I was like, okay, so I knew I would enjoy, I'd probably enjoy it, right? And I did. It was great. I loved it. It'll be a movie that I'll probably rewatch at some point in time. I can see it very well being one of those movies where I'm like, you know what, I haven't seen in a while, Black Phone. Let's watch that. And but yeah, it was fun, and it was one of those movies that when we were talking our top 5, man, it was very hard to not put it in there because of how much I enjoyed it. But again, it goes to the strength of 2022 that a movie like Black Phone didn't make our top 5. And spoiler, to be fair, it was the third highest grossing movies of 2022. But spoiler here, Smile and Nope, which were above them, that didn't make our top 5 either of our favorites. And I loved them both. I really did. So that's no knock on them, but they didn't make it. But anyway, our third honorable mention. This might surprise a few people because you don't hear, it got a little talk when it came out, but then you don't hear people talk about it a lot. It's the movie starring Kevin Bacon, They, Them. Again, did not get a box office release. It went straight to streaming. And it's available on Peacock, excuse me. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie. I love Kevin Bacon. So that makes me a little biased to begin with. but it felt how do I describe this? It felt retro, right? Because, and I don't mean that. What I mean is setting in a camp setting felt very horror retro, right? I mean, even though it wasn't a timepiece thing, it's like, oh, you're that classic, camp type setting, which so many great horror movies, of course, like the Friday the 13th, etc. That makes it appealing to me. But then it had a very hot button topic to it about essentially gay conversion, right? I mean, and it did it to me. It approached it very tastefully and respectfully, and it was great. It worked, and I very much enjoyed it. And again, I mean, how do you not love Kevin Bacon? He was great in it, just spectacular. Actually, the entire cast was great. So I very, very, very much enjoyed They Them, and I think it was very deserving of one of our honorable mentions.
No, yeah, absolutely. They Them was one of those really kind of surprising ones for me, because in my opinion, like you said, it felt retro, but it definitely tackled, like you said, a modern day hot button issue, and it did a very good job of not only doing it respectfully, but it did so in a way that really made you think. It was a classic whodunit type movie, and in my opinion, if you really can't go wrong with a good slasher movie. Slasher movies, as a lot of people know, is one of my favorite horror movie genres. And it's one of those things that I'm very easy to please when it comes to slasher movies, and it was very easy to add them to one of our honorable mentions. I mean, like you said, there are so many movies that we could have had in our honorable mentions, but I feel like this one kind of was almost like a Hallmark movie because there aren't a lot of very good LGBTQ plus content when it comes to horror movies. A lot of these horror movies, especially in the early 2000s and before, unfortunately, are very disparaging of the community. So it was very nice to see a movie that basically set them up in a positive light versus the often negative light that they're given in other movies. So I 100% agree. They Them was a great movie. I would have personally gone to the theaters to watch it. I felt like it was deserving of a theatrical release, but like you said, it streams on Peacock, so we'll have it forever, hopefully, unless Peacock decides to remove it for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it came out kind of one of those times when things were there's a lot of flux going on, right? Where the movie industry was trying to figure out how to balance the streaming and the theater and, where the people are going to come back and everything else. So I think that's why it went straight to streaming. And I would venture to guess if that movie were coming out this year, it might be different, right? I think it would probably get a theatrical run. But I think it's worthy. But let's take a little break here. And then when we come back, we are going to jump right into our top 5 favorite horror movies of 2022.
Number 5.
All right, Ike, let's kick it off. Let's count down our top 5. Why don't you start us out with our number 5 favorite horror movie of 2022?
Absolutely, I can do that for you. I don't think it should be any surprise. I want to preface this by saying I think most of these top 5s that we have here, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by a lot of them, honestly. And if they're surprised by it, I'll be very surprised that they're surprised. That's called surpriseception.
I feel like there might be one sleeper that slid in there for us. But if anybody is a regular listener of us, I don't think it will surprise them. So therefore, you don't have to be surprised that they were surprised, because I think we're all cool with no surprise.
Absolutely. Surpriseception. But number 5 is Barbarian. Box office, $45.4 million worldwide. That's right. Mr. Worldwide. Available on HBO Max. Available for purchase on all digital platforms. Obviously, Barbarian, I watched this movie. I think I watched this first before you had watched it. And then you watched it. Obviously, seeing the trailer for this movie, it has a Skarsgård in it. It has Justin Long in it. First of all, Justin Long wasn't in the trailer, so I was very surprised that he was in the movie, to be honest. But I will say this much: Barbarian shocked me. Not only the content of Barbarian, but also how good Barbarian was. I really felt like it wasn't going to be as good as it was, but then, surprise, surprise, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Again, a bias for me is Justin Long, right?
Yeah.
I love Justin Long. I can watch him in anything, and I don't care if the movie is bad. If you had put Justin Long in Cabin Fever, I would have completely changed my approach to Cabin Fever. If you put Justin Long in Halloween Ends, it would have completely changed my approach to Halloween Ends. You know, I love Justin Long, and this was no exception. And the thing is, and I don't mean this in a bad way per se, because I'm not saying he can't, but he kind of plays the same type of character in almost every movie, right?
100%.
He goes to this, but he does it so well, and he is so good at the physical comedy stuff, right? Being able to sell a joke or sell a punchline or just sell whatever, putting that touch of humor without even saying anything, just the approach. And of course, if you want to talk Justin Long physical comedy, I will always throw up on the billboard him in Dodgeball.
Oh my God, I love Dodgeball.
It was so spectacular. Go on, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but listeners, go and look up and watch the edit of just him and all the dodgeball hits he takes through filming this movie. And it's so funny to see how he sells each one of those.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
I love that movie. But so I love the movie. It was a solid movie, fun movie, great movie. Loved it, held my attention. And then you put Justin Long in it. That's probably the reason it broke into top 5 is with Justin Long. Had Justin Long not been in it, I probably would have pushed for like they them a little harder to be in the top 5. But I make no bones about it. I'm very biased about Justin Long and absolutely love him and love this movie. Which brings us to our number 4.
Number 4.
The number 4 favorite horror movie of 2022 is Scream. Had a box office of 140 million worldwide. It is now available to purchase on all streaming platforms. I don't know. Again, it's another bias. I love the Scream franchise, and
Yep.
I enjoy them all. Of course, some more than others, right? I have my favorites. But you put a Scream movie out there, it's probably going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. It just flat out. And I mean, we got another one coming this year. So when we have this discussion at the beginning of 2024, there's a good chance that Scream is going to be in that top 5 as well, because I love the Scream movies, and they're so fun. They're so there's so much throwback and homage to classic stuff and classic horror. And the way they approach things and do things, and the kills are always great, and the humor to me is 90% of the time is pretty clever and pretty good. And this movie was no exception. I very much enjoyed it, and that's why I think it made our number 4 favorite of 2022.
No, absolutely, and I just have to add that Scream, obviously, it is a pivotal movie. As a general thought, it's a pivotal movie just in general because it's such I would say a hallmark of slasher movies. The original film plays obviously on the slasher trope. It plays up all of the tropes of the content of slasher genre. You have all of this wonderful content stuffed into the Scream franchise from start to finish. There's 5 of them with a 6th one coming out this year. And I just think that Scream is a pivotal film for horror in general. As a meta horror film, you cannot get better than Scream, honestly. But absolutely, I 100% love it. I think, in my opinion, I'm going to hold my judgment because I'm very scared about this new Scream, just because it's not going to be the conventional Scream that we're used to. But I'm going to hold my judgment until we see it. I'm hopeful. Jenna Ortega has become one of my favorite actresses. With her performance in Scream, X, The Fallout, Wednesday. I mean, so many great things. So, yeah, absolutely. Scream, fantastic. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
Yep. The thing is with the new one, the Scream 6 coming out, I'm so hyped because I have a history of very much enjoying when a horror franchise takes something out of setting. And those are, while some people may think, oh, it doesn't work quite. I love them. I love Jason Takes Manhattan, and I love and movies like that. And so I have faith that this is going to fall right into one of those, even if it's cheesy, even if I love it. And I really, I don't know. My gut says that this will be one of the Scream movies that I will probably go back to on rewatches. But even though I'm pretty sad that we're going to have our first Scream movie apparently without Dewey in it, and I always miss Dewey. He was always funny. I miss how every movie he had a different limp or different scar or different
some other ailment from the last movie.
Yeah, that's right. So all right, Ike. So let's move on.
Number 3.
Yes. Oh, yes. Number 3. Number 3. And again, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody because we talked about how much we love this movie when it came out. But you got to give some love. Gotta give some sugar. It's a good old Deadstream. Deadstream was a straight-to-streaming movie from Shudder and AMC+. I mean, I think it should be. This should be no surprise because I feel like we talked about it a lot. We really hyped up the movie. When the movie eventually did come out, we reviewed it, and I think we both kind of came to the conclusion that, you know what, this is a sleeper movie for 2022. There wasn't a whole lot of, I feel like, what's the word? Not a lot of marketing behind the movie to begin with. It kind of just came out under the radar. When the movie did eventually come out, it was like, bam, right there, right in your face. And it was such an interesting concept. It was so well done. And you and I were just like, yep, love it. Would 100% watch it again. And we even talked about how much, like, man, we wish that there was more Deadstream. But
Absolutely. No, it's one of those things. It's I heard about it coming out and really didn't I give two thoughts to it, right? It's like, okay, whatever. And then when it came out, all of a sudden online, people were like, dude, this is something. This is really good. This is fun. I was like, all right, you've convinced me, world, right? You convinced me. I'm going to give it a shot. And then I watched it and I was like, holy shit, you got to watch this, right? We got to review this movie because it's like, it was so fun. And it is it was such a fun movie. I absolutely loved it. It plays into all my likes, right? It was a little bit of cheese to it, right? And the humor and the guy was so good in it. And just the concept. And again, here it is. It's a found footage film. and I am over the top about this. It's so odd to me. I guess that just reflects on how good a year 2022 was. If it's completely saved my soul on found footage films. But if I cannot stress enough. If you've not watched Deadstream, go watch Deadstream. It is such a fun movie. I cannot sing the praises enough. To me, again, in a monster year of box office hits and everything else, totally deserving to be number 3 on our list of favorite horror movies of 2022.
Number 2.
All right, and then here we are. We're down to number 2 on our top favorite horror movies, of 2022, and it is X. Box office 15 million worldwide. It is available on Paramount Plus at Showtime, and of course available to purchase on all streaming platforms. Man, X was just again. I use the word fun so much, right? I know. We talked about you have your catchphrases and things you say, whatever. I did too. Because that's what I watch movies for, right? I watch movies to have fun and to enjoy myself. And of course, sometimes you want to think, or it's fun to wrap your head around something or whatever. And sometimes it's great to be moved and cry in a movie and whatever else. But I want to have fun and I want to enjoy. And those are the movies that stick with me. And those are typically the movies I go back, right? Even great movies that maybe trigger other emotions, I can love them, but I don't rewatch them as much as the fun movies. And maybe that's why I like so many weird ass cheesy movies, because they're fun. And I'm not saying X is cheesy at all, but it was fun to me. It was so, we used it earlier when we talked retro. This movie felt so retro to me. And it just felt like a great old horror slasher movie to me. And it was, it had a great cast, and man, it was so I just love it. Again, it was fun. That's what I keep saying, and I can't think of a better word to describe them, because it's so enjoyable. It was a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it, and it's one of those movies that when I finished it, it's like almost there was this part of me. It's like, okay, I can't wait till I watch that again. And it's and that's a lot of times how I gauge these movies, right? How do I feel right when it's over? Do I feel like, oh man, I'll watch that again. I can't wait till I watch that again sometime. Or is it a glad that's done? I and this movie is one that I can't wait to watch again, even at this point. And I think I've watched it a couple times as it is already. So I got what's your take on X?
Yeah, absolutely. I like you said, X was one of those movies where it came out. I wasn't actually able to see it in theaters, so I had to wait until it came to streaming. And I watched it, and it was one of those movies where I was like, you know what, this movie again was kind of shocking for me because it brought all of the feels of like a 80s slasher movie. It brought kind of like the feel of a Texas Chainsaw-esque movie. I was very, very surprised with like how well it kind of honed in on like those tropes. And as you're watching this, you're kind of getting to know these characters and you're getting to see these really cool and gruesome kills. And I think for me, the thing that really sets X apart from a lot of the other movies that came out this year is that this movie was made with a plan in mind.
Yep.
This movie was made with a grand scheme. This was a big picture movie because the guy who made, or the person, I'm not sure who it is actually, the person who made X is making 3 movies. X, Pearl, which is already out, and then I think it's called Maxine.
Yeah, it's Ty West.
Yeah, Ty West. That's right. So you have these 3 movies that literally were already created. You have Mia Goth, who is the main character of the X film Maxine / Pearl, and she literally is like, I mean, I would go as far to say that she's kind of like a horror movie icon now because she's already been cast in Maxine. There's a movie coming out this year called Infinity Pool that she's going to be in with Alexander Skarsgård. There's a movie called Sweet Dreams, which I am not sure whether it's a horror movie specifically, but I've heard good stuff about like the production of it. I mean, X kind of created, in my opinion, a horror movie star, a modern horror actress, final girl star. And I think that there's going to be a lot of great stuff that comes from X, but X in of itself was also, I feel like, a foundational film, and I feel like 20 years from now, it's going to have a really great cult following.
Yeah, and it clearly, you could super tell that he had this whole big picture story planned out, right? Because I mean, there was a pretty quick turnaround to get Pearl out.
Yeah.
After X, so there was clearly. I like it when that exists, and whatever kind of movie it is, right? Where it's like, it's not a situation where, this movie was successful, we better make a sequel. Where it's we already have this big story in mind, and this movie was successful enough that great, now we get to tell the rest of my story, right? And it's let's use that as a springboard to go off to our number 1, right? Because that's a great point for our number 1.
Number 1.
I feel like we need a huge drum roll here. Unleash, again, if anybody's listened to us, they probably are not going to be surprised by this, but Unleash on the World, what is our number 1 favorite horror movie of 2022?
Absolutely. And as Clark Griswold and the Griswold family did in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our number 1, our numero uno, the head honcho, the big cheese, is Terrifier 2. Obviously, this should be no shock to anybody who's watched or should I say listened to our podcast, because I feel like in every podcast we mention 2 movies. We mention Terrifier 2 because of how fantastic the movie is, and we mention Halloween Ends because of how shit that movie is. So, this movie, I mean, okay, first of all, it's available on Screambox. You can buy it everywhere on streaming platforms. Made about $11 million worldwide, which, for a independent horror film that got an extremely limited release, that's fantastic.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure the budget was like $250,000, if I'm remembering right.
So yeah, it was nickels and dimes.
Real.
Yes, absolutely. Terrifier 2's budget was nickels and dimes compared to the amount of money that this movie made. I mean, it is absurd how much money this movie made, relatively speaking. Yeah, $250,000 estimated. With that in mind, Terrifier 2, it is the culmination of years of work by Damien Leone. Damien Leone has been crafting the character of Art. Art the Clown has been simmering since the early days of the 2000s in various short films in various anthology films until he finally got his own movie. And that movie was fantastic. That movie was a little rough around the edges, but it gave you the right idea. Even though it was a little rough around the edges, it then produced the fantastic movie which we got this year, which was Terrifier 2. Terrifier 2, in my opinion, is perfection on the character of Art the Clown. In my opinion, it curved out all the edges. It created the character Art the Clown, and in my opinion, cemented him in a long legacy of horror villains and slasher villains. So, I mean, I cannot sing the praises of Terrifier 2 enough. Obviously, not everybody's going to like this movie, but one cannot argue that for a independent film, Terrifier 2 is a foundational film.
It absolutely is, and it is again. This movie blows my mind in so many aspects. So many. I know a lot of people, right? Some people don't like slasher. They don't like the gore, and there's a lot of gore, right? I do. I love that stuff, right? I love it. Next level, though, when you think about, again, the budget they had and the effects they produced. It is unbelievable to me what they put on film with this budget. It is, this movie, again, like you said, this movie has created a horror icon. I don't care who you are. I don't care your feelings on this. The entire horror world, and it's going to start bleeding. It's bleeding into the actual, just the entire world will know who Art the Clown is. Just like they know who Freddy is. They know who Jason is. They know who Michael Myers is. We're getting to that point. It's happening. People know who Art the Clown is. You're going to see Art the Clown all over the place, right? And at Halloween and the costumes, and you're going to see it just as a part of pop culture in the world and in this country. And like what I said earlier about the big picture and the story and how having success allows you to tell the rest of your story, that is what has happened with Terrifier, right? Terrifier did all right enough that he was able to take his time and make Terrifier 2, right? And he did it. It was a labor of love, right? But now this movie has sealed the deal, right? There ain't no fucking way in the world that he is not going to get to tell part 3, right? There's nothing that's going to stop him, because it has proven itself, and he will get to do it on his terms again, and he's going to get to do it with more backing. He's going to get to do it with, I mean, he's going to, I would venture to guess they have already filled it. I can't even imagine the offers that are pouring in from production companies and this and that and everything else that want to get on board with Terrifier 3, and they are holding all the power. They can do what they want with this.
Oh, 100%.
And one thing that's going to be wise is I guarantee you, and again, I don't want to speak for someone, but he is going to be able to hold the rights to this character no matter what he does. No matter what he does for distribution or any of that, I guarantee you, because I'm telling you, as big as the movies are and as popular as these movies are going to be and as whatever else, the money is going to be in that character. And the licensing that you can do. I mean, we haven't seen we're starting to see more, but we haven't seen this overabundance of Art the Clown merchandise yet.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen. All these companies that produce shirts and figures and everything else of all these horror franchises, I guarantee you they're going to want to jump on board. I mean, how long is it going to be till we, see an Art the Clown Funko Pop and whatever else? Because the shit's going to happen. And I'm telling you, he pretty much he gets to, and I'm not saying this is what he wants to do, and I'm not saying this is his motives, but he's going to be able to name his number on some of this stuff, right? Because there's going to be people that want to produce this stuff, and they're going to want to be the exclusive on some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I got a sidetrack, but the movie was fantastic. It was so fun. Just had everything you want in it, right? Had the absolutely epitome of a final girl in it. The kid was great in it. Played his role. Of course, Art was just spectacular. And from what they say, they knew where they were going. They knew what they wanted to do in part 3 if this got to was successful. I cannot wait, because they say part 3 will blow your mind even more on where they want to go.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say too. A lot of people they like to say oh yeah, this movie was all right, but you have to look at it in the grand scheme of things. If you watch the progression of Art the Clown's character from these other films, and you watch Terrifier 2, you're going to first and foremost see that this was a labor of love. You're going to see that this film was a culmination of the character, and the most important thing is that this is just the beginning. Art the Clown is going to become one of those characters that is going to have a bunch of movies. Obviously, it's going to happen. I'm sure that not every Terrifier or Art the Clown movie is going to be a gem, but here's the deal. Damien Leone has done something in the modern age that very few people have been able to do, right? Since the 80s, we've been recycling the same probably 5 or 6 horror movie icons, right? You have Chucky, you have Freddy Krueger, you have Jason Voorhees, you have Michael Myers, you have Leatherface, you have Hellraiser, or I'm sorry, Pinhead from Hellraiser. You have like 5 or 6 like iconic horror movie villains that have been recycled over the past 30, 40 years, which is absolutely fine. I have no problem with people rehashing the same character under different pretenses. That's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. But what somebody has not done in a very long time is create a fleshed out, well, as fleshed out as a mindless killer can be, but a fleshed out character like Art the Clown. Art the Clown, his motivations are simple. He just likes to kill people. You know what I mean? He just likes to have fun. And I feel like that's one of the things too, is that not every movie monster, not every killer has to have some, poetic motivation. You know what I mean?
Nope.
They didn't have to drown in a lake. They didn't have to be the embodiment of evil. They didn't have to be some pedo that burned in a fire. They could just be a mindless killer. And that's the thing that I think is important here, is that Art the Clown embodies what I think is a very obscure concept, but also a very cool concept that is just going to continue to get even better and better as we continue to get movies, quite frankly.
Yeah. Which, to me, I've always thought all that is very key to Art the Clown's kind of minimalistic look.
Yeah. Right?
The black and white, because to me, that's what it is. He is cut and dry. He is black and white, right? There's not gray with what he does, right? He does what he does because he wants to do it, to damn with whatever else. He doesn't care. And to me, I think Leon has created the most iconic horror character since Ghostface. I think that was kind of the last big iconic horror character that was created, is when those Scream movies came out, right? And this, this merchandised and marketed character that is almost, it just seeped into pop culture and that everybody knows now, right? I think this is the next one, right? You had those ones from the 80s, the big 3, right? The Holy Trinity, right? The Freddy, the Jason, the Michael. And then you've had people try to create things, and they're okay, right? And they're varying degrees. They're good here and there, right? And like you said, you have the leather faces that it's just not quite maybe on that same level, but it's still pretty iconic, right? And some of these others, I think Ghostface is pretty iconic. And to me, I think this is the latest one. And the fun thing is, we're just seeing the beginning of it, right? Yeah. This is just a start, like you said there. I mean, I can't imagine this stopping, because they've hit a level now, and with the tools and avenues that are in the modern world, that they can do this however they want, if they choose to, whether they have somebody behind them or working with them, or whether they do it on their own again. They get to tell their stories. They get to call their shots. They get to do what they want with it, because that's just the take on the modern world, right? And while Terrifier 2 had kind of a limited theatrical release, I'll be curious to see what now Terrifier 3 will get, because theaters going to look at, well, this movie did well, right? It for what it did and the number of screens it was on. Look at the money it made, and I feel like there'll be more that will want to jump on board for 3, and I see a much bigger release theatrically for it. And
oh yeah, 100%. Honestly, Damien Leone has created a blank check for himself. Yeah. Quite frankly.
And it's funny, because we could talk about Terrifier 3 and where this is going, wherever else. They're still riding the wave of 2. It is still doing well, right? It just got its physical media release. I've seen it, on all over social media with the steelbook releases and everything else showing up in Walmarts and other avenues, and people getting their shipments from online and stuff. It's just getting its its physical release, which has caused this whole new wave of people watching it and people enjoying this and it being talked about again. And there's lots of awards out there that they're getting some nominations for it. And of course, not they didn't get anything for the Oscars or anything like that, but
right.
but some of these others that are a little more favorable to horror movies, and they're getting attention. So we can talk all we want about 3 and beyond and whatever else in the future. They're still riding the wave of Terrifier 2, and it's still monumental. And again, I know these kind of movies are not for everybody, and that's okay. But I still highly suggest, if you've not seen it yet and you enjoy slashers at all, and you don't mind some gore and just enjoying yourself and having fun, and go watch it. And it was one of those movies that, again, I'm so hesitant about long movies. And this movie, I had no problem with. It didn't bother me at all. I mean, I told you, 2022 has just changed my mind on so many things, I guess. Between found footage and long movies and everything else, it's just, it's like I had all these things that I was like, the hills I were dying on. Horror's better when it's this and that. And then here they are. These things are coming out. That's like, oh, okay, well, I guess my opinion's changed a little on this. But I still hold firm that most horror is best at an hour and a half or less overall.
I would typically agree. I think 99% of the time. I think that Terrifier 2 is the exception that makes the rule, if you will.
Yeah, it works for it. But that's it. I think anybody that's listened to us, there's no surprise that we love Terrifier 2. We've been tooting the horn of it, like you said. We've talked about it all the time. Probably mentioned it on the majority, if not all, of our episodes. So I don't think anybody's surprised by that being our choice as number one. I'm assuming there's probably a lot of people out there that if they had to make a list, it would be number one for them too. So again, quick rundown. Our top five: 5, Barbarian; 4, Scream; 3, Deadstream; 2, X; and number 1, Terrifier 2. That's how we see it. That's how we enjoyed it. We had some honorable mentions, and there's a whole slew of other movies that were great too, that we just didn't have enough time or whatever to talk about. So 2022 was a banner year. I'm so excited for 2023 in horror movies. And we're jumping right into it. Next episode, we're going to review Megan. That's Megan with a 3. I'm hoping we get to know what that 3 thing is, what that means. I don't know if that's been explained yet, but we'll see. But just what I've seen trailer-wise and everything else, man, this movie's already creeping me out. So I'm excited to see it. We'll review that next episode. But here we are, off to the races. Our first big release of 2023, and I'm super excited. But Ike, as we close the door on 2022, any last parting words?
Oh, man. Well, all I can say is that 2022 was a hell of a year for horror movies, and I can only hope that 2023 is a fraction as good. But I will say this, if 2023 continues with the trend that we currently see, 2023 is going to be great, if not better than 2022. But I will have to say that it will be sad not to have my boy Art in 2023. Probably won't have him again until like 2024. But I think I'll live for a year. But despite all that, have a happy new year, everybody. Watch some horror movies, please.
Absolutely. And like we said, it's going to be a fun ride in 2023. And we hope that you take it with us, right? We hope you tune in every week and listen as we talk about this horror movies and the releases and classic movies and everything else we talk about. Thank you for your support so far in this ride. And let's dive into 2023 and let's have a great year. Wishing everybody the best. And wherever you go and whatever you do, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.